Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And first things first, I've had quite a few emails from people saying, hey, would love to send you links and information and videos and stuff, but, Gmail is not secure. So I have established a Protean Mail secure email account. And all you have to do is I'll put it down below the video so you can send emails there. But please, if you're going to send me an email to that secure account, please send me an email by the normal Homestays email account, just saying, hey, I've sent you an email on Protean. That's all you have to say, and I'll go and check it out. Okay? Now, the other news is that I'm going to be taking a break Saturday morning, my time, so there won't be any videos on Friday night, your time, because I need it. I need a break, believe me, so I'm taking one. Now, let's get on to the subject at hand. Okay, let me get the elephant in the room up, and I might just go this, no, I have to go this side, okay. Okay, the elephant in the room, and we're talking about money. We're talking about South Africa's ability to fund its debt. And there is a video attached to this introduction with the DA's Natasha Mazoni. And she's talking about the perilous state of the state-owned enterprises, which are sucking up billions of rands worth of debt. And she basically calls a spade a spade. But to actually fund that debt, you've got to have taxpayers' revenue. You've got to have income coming in to actually make that happen. And the problem is that tax base is just dissipating so fast. It is breaking up. And we know that the Commissioner of Taxation is very concerned about how they're going to raise the revenue in the future to fund South Africa's debt. And let me just pour a bit more oil on the fire. Clothing retailer Edcon narrowly avoided liquidation early in 2019 when its creditors and landlords threw in a 2.7 billion rand lifeline. It was too big to fail because its collapse would have put 140,000 jobs on the line. Similarly, business rescue practitioners are working around the clock at Construction Group 5 in a bid to save 3,000 to 3,500 jobs. Now, this is happening all over the place in South Africa because the economy is in absolute chaos. And most of the taxation comes from business. Think about it. That's the government revenue. And there is another element here that is the unspoken but self-evident issue, and that is migration. Huge migration out of South Africa by people who can afford to, i.e. wealthy people, i.e. people who paid lots of taxation. And as we know, amongst them is Johan Rupert, the biggest taxpayer in the country, are leaving. You know how that's going to impact the government's ability to fund things. And then it starts playing at the edges with the national health insurance concept when the public health system is a disgrace. And I'll be talking more about that later this evening. There's some incredibly disturbing reports coming out. But let's keep to the topic here. South Africans are exploring immigration in what one consultant describes as dramatic numbers, and another said represented a massive spike above the usual level of inquiries. And farmers and business owners in particular seem to be leaving, selling off assets in South Africa to use the proceeds and their know-how to secure entry into Canada and Australia in particular. At one consultancy, the number of such business visas being processed has increased by 15 times. Customers cite a variety of economic reasons for leaving. Immigration consultants say difficulties in doing business in South Africa or from South Africa when dealing internationally, trouble dealing with the government and in particular getting paid when delivering on government tenders, and a general lack of belief that things will be getting better any time soon. Also often mentioned are new and evolving policies such as the National Health Insurance, or NHI, and expropriation without compensation of land. Nicholas Avramis of Beaver Immigration in Cape Town describes a mood of his clients unlike anything he's seen since moving to South Africa in 2015. He said, "People are edgy about the economy." A general effect also seems to be in play. An increasing number of immigrants are following their children abroad, said Robbie Raglis, Managing Director of New World Immigration, sometimes after sending those children to study abroad. While the United States and Britain both appear to have lost their appeal due to domestic political troubles, Australia and Canada remain popular. But while Australia sets a high bar to achieve permanent residency as a business person, such as requiring a net worth of around 15 million rand as proof of business talent, Canada can be very accessible for business owners and farmers. Canadian provinces have some leeway in the kind of immigrants they want to attract, and its prairie provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, are currently on a huge drive to attract farmers, says Raglis. The easiest entry is for farmers who can show previous success at running commercial agricultural operations and have the equivalent of around 6 million rand, say from the sale of a farm in South Africa, to invest in primary production somewhere like Alberta. Just how easy the process is depends on exactly what kind of farmer a province is looking for, says Sean Kupferberg of New World's Consultancy Division. A province that sees a need to expand livestock farming or mixed crop planting can prove very accommodating to South Africans with proven skills. In non-agricultural business, there is a preference for immigration candidates deemed attractive because they seem capable of setting up a new business or expanding an existing enterprise quickly. In Canada's smaller states, in particular, Avramis said South Africans can get through the door with a good track record, good English skills, a 4-year degree, and as little as 3 million rand to invest. While Canada is not specifically targeting South Africans, it is actively courting of 1 million new residents, making it a rarity amongst developed nations. So, what's happening in South Africa is an improbability. You've got a government that is increasingly going into debt. Remember, debt is serviced by tax. And you've got thousands of businesses closing down because they're having problems, going liquidation. The unemployment rate is not going down, it's going up. The people who are the larger taxpayers are leaving the country, which is a huge impost on the tax base. As I said, big businesses are battling, which means they can't pay tax, or they've got less tax to pay. So you've got this impossible situation where the government's acting as if the economy is growing and there's more taxation coming through and it's throwing billions of rands at state-owned enterprises as if it doesn't matter. But it does. South Africa is basically bankrupt. That's the bottom line. They cannot afford to pay their debt. And the only way they can get out of this, as the DA speaker in the video that's attached mentions, is by raiding the pension funds. And that is what they're going to do. And that is why it's so important that you sign Ted Blom's petition to stop the government from starting to raid people's private pensions. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. And above all, stay safe. Bye for now.
Honorable Mazone.
Thank you, House Chairperson. State-owned entities pose a very serious risk to the fiscus, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni said. Allow me to quote from a section of the budget speech delivered earlier this year. Funding requests for SAA, SABC, Denel, Eskom, and other financially challenged state-owned enterprises have increased, with several requesting state support just to continue operating. Isn't it about time that the country asks the question, do we still need these enterprises? Mboweni asked the National Assembly. Indeed, Minister, do we still need these enterprises? Government guarantees to state companies are at more than 450 billion rand. That's just over $36 billion. This, according to the National Treasury data. The state's exposure to this increased by 64.5% in the past fiscal year, from 54.4% as companies drew in on their guarantees. According to a statement made by the South African Reserve Bank, and I quote again, financial stability centres around the ability of state-owned entities to roll over debt and achieve financial consolidation. Should state-owned entities fail to roll over the debt, the government would be liable and might not be able to honour such debt. The Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, announced in Parliament in June this year that a lender would pay the remaining 15% of salaries owing to Denel employees, as Denel was only able to pay 85% of its staff that month. This was merely a temporary bandage for an entity that, quite frankly, is on the brink of collapse. This unidentified lender is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, but a temporary reprieve. Today, I sat in on the Standing Committee on Appropriations. Chairperson of Eskom, Mr. Jabu Mabuza, said something that I found astonishing. He said, pray for luck to keep the lights on. This from an entity that has been hollowed out by state capture, and wait for it, has a debt of over 440 billion rand and counting. Now, someone said to me one day, you know, we're so used to talking about billions that we forget the concept of how much a billion is. Well, to put it in context, if you started counting the seconds now, it would take you over 32 years to count to 1 billion. Let that sink in. South Africa has hundreds of state-owned entities. Many of them are either completely dysfunctional, bankrupt, or frankly serve no purpose whatsoever other than the lining of the pockets of the connected few. Many of the hundreds of state-owned entities also duplicate functions and should simply not exist. They are sucking money from the fiscus and pose a great threat to the South African economy. From bailouts to guarantees, here's just a slight glimpse at the frightening state of state-owned entities. South African Airways debt, 21.7 billion rand. Denel's debt, 3 billion rand, with 2 bonds due in September totaling 2.7 billion. And Eskom's debt, 440 billion, 610 million. State-owned entities are archaic in their design. They should not be being used for economic development. It simply does not work. The economy should be growing through and supporting a free market system. This would give South Africans choice. It would give South Africans opportunity, and it would create a conducive environment for national and international investment. When the money is finished, the money is finished. It is very easy for billionaires to make bold statements that government employees' pension fund is taxpayers' money anyway. 3.5 million South Africans have worked diligently their whole lives as civil servants and now face the risk of utter destitution in their old age because the government wants their pensions to bail out failing state-owned entities. It is very easy to be a socialist with other people's money. It is very easy to have communist leanings when the millions of rands that you deal with are not your millions. The fact of the matter is this: it is our job to be the custodians of the South African coffers. Simple economics dictates that you cannot spend more than you have without dire consequences. You cannot grow an economy when you are held ransom by unions who cripple state-owned entities when they feel that their demands aren't met. You cannot grow the economy when the energy supply is not secure. You cannot grow the economy by pouring billions and billions of rand into failing entities. Now is not the time to throw money at the problem. Now is the time to trim the fat. We cannot afford to continue with the status quo, where a government spends billions on bailing state-owned entities instead of spending the money on job creation initiatives and service delivery. It is time to be pragmatic and to stop playing politics. It is time to set political ideologies aside. State-owned entities represent some of the biggest monopolies in the South African economy, and by conducting a comprehensive review, government would be providing citizens with a clear indication that they are willing to start the process of structural change to protect our economy from further financial loss. We simply cannot be sentimental about state-owned entities. The country is in crisis. It therefore requires urgent reforms and the absolute protection of pension funds. This is nothing more than the new potential state capture. And mark my words, this battle too
Thank you
shall
very
be
much,
fought
Honourable Member.
and it shall be won.
Honourable Lesoma.